Hello. So I changed the inner tie rods and outer tie rods on this the other day. The steering wheel was straight before I changed it. Obviously, it is not straight anymore. So because that's the only thing that I did to this car, and no other thing, I know that I tightened now one side more than the other. I did in the other videos explain to you, this is a 2007 PT Cruiser. I did explain in the other tool review, inner tie rod removal tool review videos. I'm going to pull over here for just a second. Anyway, did sort of explain how to do that. So let's pull over here. It did make somewhat of a difference. But because I'm working alone, I didn't have a second person holding the steering wheel dead center as I was tightening those. If you do have a second person or a helper, that would be extremely helpful before dropping the car back down. I don't, and I haven't been able to get a hold of anybody, so it's just kind of annoying and play it by ear, but I wish it wasn't. So in the other videos, I explained you take the old one typically and you measure from one end on the outside to the other end, and then you drop them back in. I did that. I did do that. So the fact I don't have extra play. So the reason I changed them is when driving and turning my steering wheel, the wheels didn't turn right away. There was, a half-second difference between turning the wheel from left to right where the wheels didn't turn or do anything. It wasn't really life-threatening or an emergency, but I went ahead and changed them anyway. But anyway, again, so when I put those back in and installed them on both sides, the left and the right and the front, I didn't have a helper holding this dead center to tell me tighten that some more before I drop it in there. So I did tighten it a whole nother turn. I didn't want to overdo it, but as you can see, my wheel's still off center. It affects it a little, not as much as having bad inner and outer tie rods. So anyway, I'm gonna take this back home and lift it up again and tighten the one side. I can't say that it's always that reason if your wheel is off center when you're driving, but it could be. It could be as easy as that, popping off the outer tie rod and then loosening up what they call the jam nut, which stops the outer tie rod from turning more onto the inner tie rod, which seems complicated if you've never done it or you don't have a lot of physical strength, I guess. It isn't that much. Because I already did it, I know it's got to be that. One side is tighter than the other. So you would think this side is shorter because the wheels turn this way, and this side is longer. So I'm going to go ahead again and drive this home and lift it back up and tighten it some more. I'm going to give it a couple turns. The car does still turn left and right, as you can see. But one side is a little more, it responds quicker than the other side. It shouldn't have tons of play like this. There's no reason. Of course, if I was going faster, you would notice more. But I don't like that. I don't want it loose. I tightened it for a reason. So I'm going to tighten it up again on this side, like I said, and then we'll see if that makes more of a difference. I noticed that when people do install the inner and the outer tie rod, that they do prefer a little bit of slack. I don't necessarily. I have a different car, and when I bought it, the steering was so tight that the concern was overcorrecting on the freeway. So if you're driving at high speeds and you need to swerve, it could roll. After I noticed that, someone went ahead and made alterations to my vehicle without my consent, and now it's extremely loose, the exact opposite. That can be a sign of that, the inner and the outer tie rod. I'm not an expert, I'm not rich. So, again, watch other videos and read the books, Chilton's or Haynes. But because, again, it's the only one thing I changed, I know that's the one thing I need to tighten up. If it were a different reason, I guess I wouldn't know. So wish me good luck on this here. Just The reason again for this, the off-centeredness of the wheel, I guess you could call it, is that one thing I changed, the inner and the outer tie rod. So I'm going to tighten it up to this side, and wish me luck.